How's it going? I'm Jared Gillis. Welcome to another All About RVs, where we love to share the information that we learn about RVing with you guys so you can go out and enjoy that RVing experience even more. Today, I'm going to answer a bunch of questions that I've had about lithium batteries, a lot of information, a lot of questions about how they work, how they operate, and try and separate fact from myth. Some of the things that I hear about lithium batteries are you can't use them in the cold. They don't work in the cold. Some say that they're dangerous, they can catch on fire, they can explode. Some say that you can take them down 100%. You can fully deplete a lithium battery compared to like a lead acid or an AGM battery. Some say they're really expensive. Some people say that they're cheaper. So these are the things that we want to look at. Are these myths? What is truth in these? Are they partial truths? So let's figure out what is really the story about lithium batteries. So let's start off with number one. Is the battery safe? Is there an inflated risk of having it catch on fire, having it explode? And really the answer is any battery that stores a large amount of energy has the potential for some kind of catastrophic failure. But the batteries for RVs are different than the ones that you've heard about in the news that catch on fire or explode. A lot of times those will be a lithium battery, but a different type of chemistry. So maybe a cobalt type of a chemistry. But the ones that we have in RVs, usually the chemistry we see is a lithium iron phosphate. Those are a lot more stable, a lot better chemistry it's safer in the long run. You actually have more hazards and a lot of potential for your battery to explode in a lead acid. Most people don't know that, but the gases that a lead acid battery give off are actually very harmful, very dangerous, and very flammable. Those batteries can and do explode. You just don't hear about it as much. Lithium batteries are a battery that you don't need to vent. So a battle-born battery, you don't have to have it in a vented compartment. It doesn't need that. A lead acid battery definitely needs to be vented because of those harmful gases that you don't want built up. You don't want to have those ignite, and you want to be able to let those air out. So vented compartments are an absolute must for lead acid batteries. And there's actually a myth about AGM batteries that you don't need to vent them. They actually do have a valve on there. They are a sealed battery, so it's not like you're having to refill the fluid in there, and they're not venting all the time like you would have on a traditional lead acid battery, but they do have a valve in there. So if they get overcharged or some other kind of circumstance where it needs to release some of that pressure that happens inside of there, they still need to be vented. I wouldn't put those in the inside of my RV. I would still have them in a vented compartment in the RV. But lithium, you don't need to vent them because they're not letting off any gases. And with this type of battery, the chemistry is really stable, but they also have a BMS device that's going to protect you in a lot of those circumstances. So there's a lot of safety features really built into the batteries that we have for RVing. Now, if you're just buying cells and assembling batteries, there's some safety steps that you need to take because the BMS, like in a battle-born battery, there's going to be different cutoffs and regulations, low temperature, a lot of things that BMS is going to manage that battery so that it is safe, because you can use lithium improperly and have it be dangerous, but that BMS is going to allow it to perform in the parameters that it's designed for to add even more safety to that battery. So I'm not worried about it catching on fire and exploding. It's a safe chemistry with a lot of safety features built into that BMS, the battery management system. The second thing that I hear about lithium batteries is you can't use them in the cold. They do not work in cold environments. And this is a partial truth and partially not true. So you can actually, we're going to look at the battle-born battery because there's different stats for different types of lithium batteries depending on who the manufacturer is. But let's look at battle-born because it is one of the more popular ones out there for RVers. A lot of people are actually surprised to hear that you can use your battery, you can still pull power out of it when it's -4 degrees Fahrenheit. That's somewhere like -20 degrees Celsius. That's really cold. So the typical environments where you're going to be using your RV, it's going to be fine for it, being able to draw power out of it. Now, if you're somewhere that's extremely cold winters, it does have a limit. So that is where you can use the battery, but as far as charging the battery, it can't be below 24 degrees. That's what the the Battleborn battery BMS device has programmed into it. Anything below 24 degrees Fahrenheit will be bad for the battery and you'll be doing damage to it. So the BMS protects it and it just won't accept a charge. You have to warm up that battery so you can start charging it. So yes, you can use power out of your battery when it's really cold down to -4 Fahrenheit, but you have to wait for it to warm up a little bit so that you can put that power back in and charge it. Now for the higher end of the scale for how warm it can get is 135 degrees Fahrenheit. So once it reaches that, the BMS will shut it down so it doesn't do any damage to the battery and keep it safe. Now, for reference, if you were to look at a lead acid battery, if we were to look at the ratings for a Trojan battery, those are very popular for RVers that want to add capacity to their battery bank. The operating parameters for that is -4 Fahrenheit to 113 degrees. So they don't want it to get quite as hot as that lithium battery, but -4 degrees, you can still use it and you can still charge it. So you do have that gained access in those lower temperatures. But some people might be surprised that they don't want you to bring it past 60% depth of discharge. So usually lead acid battery, you think about bringing it safely to 50% and charging it back up, and you're not doing any damage, you're not shortening the life of the battery. But if it's cold, if it's below 32 degrees and below, they don't want you to take it below 60% of that battery. So you can't use the full capacity on a lead acid battery. That's because if you have a depleted battery in freezing temperatures for lead acid, you can actually have that battery freeze. And once that battery freezes, it's no longer usable. It's done. The battery will be dead. So each battery and its type has its own limitations, and knowing the limitations of that battery is good to know. But the BMS device in a lithium battery will help protect it in those extreme environments. Another thing I hear about lithium batteries all the time is you can use them 100%. You can bring them all the way down to 0 and you won't do any damage to them. And that's not 100% true. It's a little bit different when you look at the ratings on these batteries. Lead acid, they give you the full capacity of the battery. If it's 100 amp hours, that's like from 100% full to completely 100% dead. You can't use it anymore. Lithium doesn't quite do that. So if you look at the Battleborn battery, they say it's a 100 amp hour battery, and you can use 100 amp hours out of it, but there's more capacity in there, but the BMS is going to shut it off so that it keeps it safe. If you take a lithium battery too low, it's going to do damage to the battery and possibly be catastrophic. So the BMS shuts it off so that there's no damage done to the battery and it keeps everything safe. So yes, a Battleborn battery, you can get the rated capacity out of it, 100 amp hours, but that BMS is shutting it off before anything dangerous were to happen to that battery. The next thing I hear is you can charge a lithium battery 5 times faster than a lead acid. And technically you can, but you probably shouldn't and you won't to protect the investment of a lithium battery. So usually on a lead acid battery, for reference, you can charge that at just under 20% of its capacity. So if you had a 100 amp hour battery, you would want to charge it at 20 amps. So you can charge it at 20 amps safely to replenish the power in it. Now, a lithium battery, the Battleborn one that we're using for reference, is you can charge it at a 1C rate. So if it's a 100 amp hour battery, you could charge it at 100 amps, but you will be reducing the abilities of the battery in the long run. The lifespan of that battery is not going to be as good. So technically, yes, you could, but to extend the life of the battery or get the life expectancy you want out of a lithium battery, you want to charge it at half of that C rate. So it can take 50 amps rather than 100 amps to safely charge it, and you're not going to do any damage to the battery. So rather than 20% for lead acid, you can charge it at 50%. So yes, it is significantly more than double of a lead acid battery. You're going to be charging much, much faster, but 5 times faster isn't probably going to be what you're going to do. And one of the last things that we hear is just how expensive or how cheap lithium batteries really are. It depends on which side of the coin that you want to be on. So I will not say that they are super cheap. they are expensive to get into. But if you look at the life expectancy, I do see where people say that the watt hours that you're going to get out of that battery are going to supersede and be a lot cheaper in the long end compared to the lead acid comparison. You're gonna have to go through a lot more lead acid batteries over the years compared to what you can get out of the lithium batteries. Even at the end of the life, where they say it's like 3,000 cycles, you still have 80% use of that battery, which is phenomenal. You can continue using that at 80%. So yes, they're expensive to get into, to buy for your RV, but yes, they are a bargain when you think about the entire life expectancy of that battery. You could even get a battery and swap out your RV and move the batteries to the new RV because they're going to last a long time. So if you're on the fence about getting lithium batteries, I hope this cleared up some of the information that's out there and help you make an informed decision whether to dive into it or not. We used Battleborn batteries in this video as an example. It's what we have used, it's what we've had. They haven't sponsored this video. There's some other decent ones out there. Battleborn has done a fantastic job creating a battery that really works well for RVers. So that to say, I think they put out a good product. I'll put a link down in the description to the batteries that we have. Like I said, we have the Battleborn batteries. So I think that's gonna do it for today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you wanna see more videos about RVing, hit that subscribe button. And if we don't see you on the road, hopefully we will see you next video.